Welcome in, everyone. Today's deep dive is, it's into a recent dispatch from the Geopolitical and Economic Analysis Group, known as KULT.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating one.
It really is. We're looking at this seemingly minor logistical event that they detailed on their Patreon account.
Right.
Basically, 3 U.S. Navy helicopters making a technical stop in Spain.
Just a quick layover.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But underneath that highly localized military movement is, honestly, the biggest diplomatic standoff between Madrid and Washington in decades.
Decades, yeah.
And this KULT dispatch provides a really granular look at how a few aircraft on a tarmac in the Mediterranean are just inextricably linked to this massive multi-theater geopolitical crisis.
It's all connected?
It is.
Yeah.
And today, you are getting a front-row seat to the friction between sovereign defense agreements and global force projection. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it really is a perfect case study of modern international relations. You have an event that's categorized officially as, a minor logistical layover.
Right, nothing to see here.
Exactly. But it serves as the absolute flashpoint for a major crisis. So the dispatch zeroes in on a Friday afternoon at the Sun St. Joan Air Base.
That's in Palma de Mallorca.
Right. 3 U.S. Navy helicopters arriving from Marseille, France. They touched down for just a few hours before continuing their route, with at least 2 of them heading toward Almeria on the Spanish mainland.
Which, on paper, reads like standard military aviation traffic.
Just a totally routine refueling stop.
But the KULT data specifically highlights the hardware involved, which completely shifts the context here.
It does.
We're looking at 2 highly specialized assets, and they actually identified them down to their serial numbers.
Yeah, 168-158 and 168-167.
Yes. And these are MH-60R Seahawk helicopters. They belong to the HSM-79 Griffin Squadron.
And for anyone who's been tracking Mediterranean naval deployments, you probably know the Griffins.
Oh, yeah.
They've been permanently deployed at the joint Spanish-U.S. naval base in Rota since mid-2022.
So seeing assets from the HSM-79 moving through this specific corridor, it suggests a shift in tactical posturing.
Not just a routine equipment transfer.
Right.
Because the operational capability of those specific airframes is really the key here. The MH-60R is not your general-purpose transport chopper.
No, it's a very specific tool.
Right. It is the primary anti-submarine and anti-surface warfare screen for Arleigh Burke-class destroyers.
Wow.
Yeah, these machines are packed with advanced acoustics, radar, precision weaponry, all designed to basically sanitize the waters around a strike group.
So when you see elite tactical assets like these repositioning from Marseille, stopping in Mallorca, and heading toward the mainland, it signals some high-level fleet coordination.
Exactly. Yet officially, it remains totally unconfirmed whether this was just a logistical transit or an active, specialized mission.
And the fact that we even have the serial numbers and the flight path down to the minute, that brings us to another major layer of this dispatch.
Oh, this is the part I love.
Yeah, because this movement wasn't announced in a Pentagon press release. The KULT post outlines how this flight path was meticulously documented by open source intelligence.
And public vigilance.
Yeah. You had the social media, military tracking account, Spain Mill Radar, actively watching the aircraft's descent toward Palma.
Right.
And then you had local observers on the ground, physically photographing these Seahawks as they came in.
Literally matching the tail numbers to the tracking data on their phones.
It's wild.
What's fascinating here is how the proliferation of open source intelligence fundamentally alters the strategic calculus for military planners. I mean, the dispatch also notes a French Navy Falcon 100 aircraft flying over Mallorca from Ibiza to Orleans right around the exact same time.
The airspace is just saturated.
Saturated with military assets, and every single one is being tracked, logged, and analyzed by the public in real time.
Right.
The whole concept of a quiet logistical movement in European airspace is effectively obsolete.
It strips away plausible deniability.
Yeah.
I mean, if a government wants to quietly reposition anti-submarine assets during a tense geopolitical window, they simply cannot do it without ending up on slight tracking apps.
Or local radar feeds.
Exactly. The Pentagon knows this, Madrid knows this. And the visibility of these Seahawks in Mallorca is just the very edge of the diplomatic minefield that's currently surrounding Spanish airspace.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the reason everyone is hyper-focused on those 3 helicopters is tied directly to a massive multinational military offensive.
Right. The backdrop to this local helicopter spotting is a severe head-on clash between the government in Madrid and the government in Washington.
A major clash.
According to the KULT dispatch, the root of this crisis is a firm, uncompromising refusal by Spain's Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez.
Yeah.
His government has flat out refused to authorize the use of the joint Rota and Meron air bases for a United States military offensive against Iran.
And the source refers to that operation as Epic Fury.
Operation Epic Fury.
Right. So the U.S. wants to launch this major offensive, and naturally they intend to leverage the Rota and Meron bases.
Because they've been using them forever.
Exactly. These are the exact bases where those Seahawk helicopters from the HSM-79 Griffin Squadron are permanently deployed. They've been the cornerstones of U.S. force projection into the Mediterranean and the Middle East for decades.
Right.
But Spain issues a categorical denial. They refuse the authorization.
Yeah.
And the operational consequences of that severed access are incredibly disruptive.
Incredibly. The dispatch explicitly details the immediate logistical domino effect of Spain's refusal. Because a modern offensive like Operation Epic Fury requires an immense continuous aerial refueling capability.
You can't run it without the fuel.
Exactly. And because they were locked out of the Spanish bases, the United States was forced to urgently relocate at least 15 KC-135 tanker aircraft.
15 of them.
Yeah. The military had to basically scramble to find alternative basing for these heavy refueling platforms in Germany, France, and Italy.
I want you to really just picture the scale of this for a second. Securing ramp space for 15 heavy tankers at the 11th hour is a massive disruption.
No, it's a nightmare.
You have to consider the sheer airspace complexity. Slotting 15 KC-135s into European air traffic networks in Germany and France and Italy on zero notice.
Right.
We're talking about renegotiating diplomatic clearances for combat support flights.
Establishing new maintenance pipelines.
Yes, rerouting fuel supplies, deconflicting with local commercial traffic. Moving a squadron of tankers isn't just a matter of changing a destination on a flight plan.
No.
It is a logistical earthquake that impacts the entire theater's air tasking order.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that logistical earthquake instantly translated into a highly volatile political fallout.
Definitely.
The rhetoric coming from both capitals has escalated dramatically. And before we get into the details, we should be clear. As we break down the specific statements made by American and Spanish officials, we are laying out the arguments exactly as the KULT dispatch presents them.
Right. We just want to impartially map out this narrative clash for you. We're not endorsing the viewpoints of the White House or the Spanish government here.
Exactly. Just looking at the source.
So, looking directly at the U.S. stance outlined in the text, the rhetoric from Washington is remarkably severe.
Very severe.
The source notes that President Donald Trump publicly labeled Spain a terrible ally.
Wow.
And he didn't just stop at diplomatic condemnation. He issued a direct economic threat, stating he would cut off all trade with the country.
Which is an extreme escalation.
Total escalation.
Yeah.
Moving a dispute over military basing access into the realm of bilateral economic retaliation.
And the financial sector of the U.S. government reinforced that aggressive posture, too.
Right.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent appeared on CNBC and explicitly described Spain's stance as unacceptable. But maybe the most operationally confusing element of the U.S. response came from the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt.
This part is wild.
Yeah, according to the KULT post, Leavitt publicly asserted that Spain had agreed to military cooperation for the offensive.
Which is just a staggering discrepancy, because the Spanish stance is the exact opposite.
Complete opposite.
Spain's position is described in the source as unwavering. Foreign Minister José Manuel Albares stepped forward and categorically denied the claims made by Press Secretary Leavitt.
He shut it down.
He stated firmly that Spain had absolutely not agreed to any military cooperation with the U.S. for Operation Epic Fury.
So you have the White House claiming an agreement is in place and Madrid publicly stating that is completely false.
Right. And Albares didn't just issue a political denial. He grounded Spain's refusal in specific legal and diplomatic frameworks.
Yeah, the source quotes Albares directly, and this really is the core of their defense. He said, "We are not going to lend our bases for anything that is not in the treaty or compatible with the UN Charter."
Wow.
He is explicitly arguing that Operation Epic Fury falls outside the agreed-upon scope of the bilateral agreement on defense cooperation that governs Rota and Meron.
And by invoking the UN Charter, Albares is signaling that Spain does not view the offensive as a legally justified action under international law.
Probably pointing to the absence of a UN Security Council resolution.
Exactly. It's a profound structural argument. And Prime Minister Sanchez is elevating it even further.
Right. The dispatch notes he has requested to appear before the full Congress in Spain to officially report on his government's position regarding the conflicts in the Middle East and this specific standoff with Washington.
So it demonstrates that the Spanish government is preparing to defend their refusal domestically.
They're treating the lockout of U.S. forces as a definitive matter of national sovereignty and international law,
Drawing a hard line.
drawing a hard line on the limitations of the joint basing agreements.
So what does this all mean?
This raises an important question about the actual durability of international military alliances in the 21st century.
Definitely.
How do long-standing integrated military structures function when two sovereign governments deeply disagree on the legality of a specific offensive?
Right, because the U.S. and Spain have shared these facilities for decades.
Building these totally intertwined defense strategies.
But this crisis reveals that a physical military base on foreign soil is entirely contingent on continuous political alignment.
The moment that alignment fractures over a single operation, the operational capability just vanishes overnight.
Forcing 15 KC-135s to scatter across Europe to find new runways.
Exactly. The KULT dispatch maps out an incredible trajectory for you today. We started by tracking the specific tail numbers of two MH-60R Seahawks making a technical stop in Mallorca.
A tiny detail.
Right. And from that hyper-local, publicly monitored event, we zoomed out to see the massive diplomatic standoff surrounding it.
Prime Minister Sanchez's refusal.
Operation Epic Fury.
The massive logistical scramble of the tanker fleet.
And the soaring rhetoric from President Trump and Foreign Minister Albares.
It really proves that you cannot view military hardware in a vacuum. Every repositioned helicopter and diverted tanker is a physical manifestation of high-stakes political reality.
By analyzing the granular details of the hardware movements, the underlying diplomacy comes into sharp focus. And I think the real takeaway here is the permanent shift in how these crises play out. We discussed how open source tracking and local observers immediately documented the movements of those specialized Seahawks in Palma de Mallorca.
Yeah, the plane spotters.
Right. I want you to think about the strategic implications of that for the future.
It's huge.
Right.
Because in an age where open source tracking apps and local citizens with cameras can instantly document the movements of specialized military hardware, how might this unavoidable public visibility permanently alter the way nations navigate quiet logistical operations during future high-stakes diplomatic freezes?
It's a great point.
If a superpower cannot even move a helicopter without the tracking data ending up online, how does any military maintain leverage or secrecy when diplomatic tensions are at a boiling point?
It's going to change everything.
It really is. It is a fascinating puzzle for you to consider as the landscape of global operations continues to evolve. Thank you so much for joining us and exploring this KULT dispatch with us. We love taking these deep dives with you, unpacking the complex world we live in, one source at a time. Until next time, stay curious.